What I'm going to do now is what I call a tap test. I'm going to do it on the speakers, but before that I've got some microphones, because I've noticed, unless I'm fooling myself, that, and I could be, that I can hear some of what's going on in microphones. So this one is a new Bayer M88. Hear a bit of that sound. I think it's brass, quite musical. Nyman KMS 105. I think that's brass, slightly higher pitched, quite musical. This is a cheaper Bayer M300 from back in the day, quite a bit lighter. Don't think it's brass, doesn't ring. Quite musical, a little bit more ragged. Bayer condenser, stage condenser V96C. Don't think it's brass. Another Bayer M88, old school, from a while back. Compare the Bayers. The new M88. A little bit ringier. Is there a minor third difference? Kind of there, but obviously higher, octave higher. That's kind of the main resonant frequency, seems to be there. Actually, similar, but the overtones are different. What am I on about? Well, I think I can hear some of that. Not surprisingly, you might think it's insane, but obviously you're singing to these things and it's picking up the vibration. It's bound to vibrate this a bit, and that vibration is bound to go into the diaphragm. A small amount, but I don't think it's quite as mad as it might seem. Now let's get onto the speakers. I forgot a classic. Well, an updated classic. Shaw Beta 58 Beta. I don't think it's brass. Back to the Bayer, the old school Bayer. More musical. Coming to the speaker, here's a speaker I know quite well. It's a 15-inch Fender badged Electro Voice 15F. 200 watt at least. Both bass and guitar. It does bass. It was in a Fender Studio bass 200 watt combo. Doesn't go that low, I don't think. I think this one was crossover, could do both bass and guitar. Cast frame, as you can see. The cast frame has a ring to it. Let's the cone itself and turn it over. Hey. I'm going to compare this with a replacement. I took this out of the bass cab, put an eminence in there. I then put this into my Fender 75 guitar amp, but something carried through which didn't suit me, which is a top end, and I think it's to do with the aluminium dust cap. So I've now got a Celestion, which you're going to hear. So now I'm going to compare this the eminence is in the cab, so I can't get it. You have to unscrew everything, but I can get at the front of the new eminence fullback 15-inch guitar speaker. So I can get at that, so we can compare those two. So if you listen to this, you can hear kind of it's down there. It's kind of there, but an octave below maybe, the main sort of resonant frequency of it. Don't know if the camera mic will pick it up so well. So that's obviously where it tends naturally to vibrate. This I could hear that, I'm pretty sure. Ticking the bass on the fingers if you were a bit clanky with the your fretting or your fingering. And I think I could hear it on the guitar, and it doesn't particularly suit me. Let's compare it as best we can with the fullback, which is mounted in the Fender 75. And the fullback has got a pressed steel frame, not cast alloy. Cast alloy is more hi-fi, considered to be better speakers when you have the cast frame. It doesn't flex, it's very rigid, which is what you want. So when the motor here pushes forward, pushes a cone forward, it's quite a bit of force against the air, this frame doesn't flex. I mean, it might sound ridiculous, but you know, it makes a difference. So when you get an impact from someone slapping maybe, and the speaker is driven forward, obviously it's hitting air and pushing air forward, this might give a bit. With a cast frame, that's not likely to happen. With a pressed steel frame, it might give a bit. So for hi-fi applications, the better speakers have cast frames. But as we know, for bass and guitar, they're an instrument, and the amp is an instrument too, and the speaker's part of the instrument. So you don't really want necessarily hi-fi. But then you need to balance your instrument up. If you understand what I'm saying, you might get that slight flex, which might take a slight edge off, which might be nice for guitars and rhythm, give it a little hint of compression, tightness. All these things are very fine, I'm sure. And maybe a little bit of a frequency, resonant frequency, but does that suit the cabinet that it's in? Does it suit the guitar you've got? So once you get into an instrument, you're talking about, what do they call it? Not serendipity, what's the word? Synergy, is that the word? Where things work well together, I think so. You can spend a lot of money and a lot of time sorting that one out because it's pretty unscientific. But for hi-fi, you want scientific. You want the thing to reproduce exactly what's gone into it. You don't want to add any of that stuff to it. You're trying to minimise that. So a cast frame is considered better maybe for that. This has got a slightly curved paper cone. Don't know if you can see that. Let me get my magic torch, which was £2. It's very useful. Was on offer, a couple of quid. LED thing, looks rather blue through the camera. So use this, if you can see, get the angle right. It's a bit curved along there. Some of them are straight-sided, some of them curved, some of them are rather more flat. The idea with the curved is that when that centre pushes, that's where the motor is in there, that you may get some cone breakup. When it pushes in the centre there, the cone might flex a bit, and that can increase the high frequency response. When it's straight-sided, that's less likely to happen. There's all sorts of magic, and the types of paper, long fibre paper is considered better for bass. I quite like the fact that we're still using paper. People used aluminium and Kevlar, and I've got some Bechstein. I did have some Bechstein cone hi-fi speakers, and I could hear the Bechstein, whatever it's called. I could hear it, slightly plasticky sound, which can be quite okay. Again, you know, depends what you want. Let's compare this then with the Celestion speaker in the other cab. So I'm going to do the tap test one after the other. Tap test for this one, listen. And now the tap test for the Celestion fullback, I keep getting the name wrong, fullback, which is mounted in the cab, as you can see. I don't want to influence you, make your own mind up, but I can hear it's a woodier sound. There's more woof to it already. It's not so stiff, presumably. It's quite a bit louder. The centre there, I'm not going to tap too hard because it's cloth, so it gives. So there's not much to be had from that, because if I press it, it goes in. I don't want to do that. Much more musical, I would say. Much more resonant. I can feel the whole cab vibrating as I tap it, but of course the other one wasn't in a cab, so you wouldn't be able to feel that, but turn it round. So here's the back. You can see a pressed steel frame, which rings a fair bit more than the cast frame. And you can imagine, I can almost see it, that there's going to be, when the motor pushes forward, there's going to be a little bit of movement maybe in this, but it might be quite musical. The difference in tapping the cone, there, I can hear that. I could be mad, but I could hear that straight away. I can show you, and the EQ is noticeably different, which I didn't find with the Eminence Big Ben. So I had the Eminence Big Ben in, I had first of all, the Fender 15-inch speaker, which came with this. That fell apart. It didn't sound very nice anyway, but the glue around the edge started coming. It was old, you know. So then I got an Eminence Big Ben, and sounded better. Didn't really love it. When I removed the cast frame Electro Voice, Fender Badge Electro Voice, from the bass cab and put an Eminence speaker in that, I fitted that cast frame Fender speaker to this. Now the thing is, that's a 200 watt speaker and this is a 75 watt amp. Well worn in, that speaker, because it's old, but I don't think it was being driven really. I have it on the 15 watt setting mostly, so you've got a 200 watt speaker. So to be fair to it, I think it's designed to be pushed a lot harder than I was pushing it, so it didn't sound too good, and I could hear that aluminium dust cap. So I had that in here. Then just recently, when I read about these, which are new, and the specs, I thought, you've got to try them, you know. You can't, reading specs isn't really much good, specifications. So as soon as I had this one in there, the EQ settings changed on the front, so I'll just show you that. Okay. We'll ignore the volume, master volume. So the basic EQ, like most Fender amps, is a treble middle bass. This has got pull boost on each of those. The lead sound, forget it. Reverb is great. Lead master, that's connected to lead sound. Again, forget it really, unless, well, might suit some people. So really this is a clean amp, switchable to 15 watts from 75. Pretty much a pokey, classic, ultra-linear Fender sound. Very bold, very big, very clean. So a good pedal machine, but actually I use it pretty much clean. And actually on the 15 watt setting, you get the power tubes sagging a bit and the preamp tubes, so fine. It means you have to balance things up in the old school way with volume and two volumes and the volume on the guitar. With the other speakers in here, I would have the middle on full, the bass on full, and the treble, there's actually a bright switch, as if. The treble on about 4 or 5, and maybe sometimes turn it down on the guitar. With this speaker in, I've got the middle on 10. These are cut only, by the way, typical Fender passive cut, apart from the boost thing, but cut. These are cut only, so you'd normally have them on full for everything. So now they've only the middle on 10, and the bass has gone down to 6 from 10, and the treble has gone up from about 4 to around about 6, but not, I haven't used it at volume X, I've only just put the speaker in. So we've gone from 4, 10, 10 to kind of 6, 10, 6 with this speaker. In 1979, I bought this Fender Super Twin Reverb. I had a Vox AC30 before this, would you believe? We started playing funk gigs. Some back in the day would be quite loud. Things wouldn't go through the PA, and I had to hire a twin reverb for some things. So obviously with Vox, forget it. Not criticising the amp, but not for keeping clean funk, not at all at that kind of volume. So I hired the Fender Twin Reverb, and I was listening to it, and I thought even that was distorting a bit. And this came out, a Super Twin Reverb, which is 180 watts. So I bought it, and I've had it ever since. And two 12-inch speakers, which are here. These are the original speakers, and look at them in a minute. What's in them in here now is I changed these out. Why did I do that? Something about them I didn't. I know I've had it 30 odd years, haven't I? So something about that's not lively as I might have liked. The options for a 180 watt valve amp, when I changed these out some time ago, were not many. So I got these. Just a sec. Got my trusty torch. I bought these and fitted them. Celestion Classic Lead 80s. Incidentally, they come with 4 holes, so I had to have the 8-hole fitting drilled. Extra 4 holes. I think I got them from Watkins Electric Music. The reason I got these, there wasn't much information. It was pre-web, remember? And sorry, not paying attention. The reason I got them was really only because they're 80 watts, and I couldn't find anything that would approach the 90 watts each that would be needed for a 180 watt amp. Let's have a look at the back here. We've got it. Move this out of the way. 4 ohms, 180 watts, 395 watts peak music power, 6 6L6s. We'll have a look at this amp another time. There's a bit of a story about it. Huge transformers, probably the heaviest combo going. So let's concentrate on these speakers. So what I'm going to do now, I bought the Celestion Cream, as you can see in the title of this video. So we've got a comparison here for the tap test of the Celestion Classic Lead 80s, the original Fender speakers, and the Cream speakers. What I want to do is let you hear the difference in the resonance between them, but also between pairs of speakers, because there's something I've noticed with the Creams, which I don't know if it's significant or not, but we'll see what you think, and maybe we'll see what Celestion thinks as well. Here we go then. All set up then. This is non-scientific, of course. Here are the original Fender speakers. Here's the Classic Lead 80s. Sorry about the focusing and stuff, it won't do it probably because it's dark. Back to the Fender originals. Notice you can hear a bit of in that. Classic Lead 80s. The Creams. The Creams, what I'm wondering about is there's a 5th difference in the frequency. It's right about there. No, there's a 6th. That's quite a lot. But not in these. These are 2 Fenders. Around there. Not in these either. These are the... Sorry if it won't focus because it's dark. The classic. Come on, you can do it. Or maybe you can't. Much the same. Quite lively these, there's a bit more musicality to them. I wonder about that difference. I shall put part of this video to Celestion and see what they say. I would have thought I would expect them to be. Actually, that one feels stiffer, tighter. Is that what it is? Wouldn't believe the trouble I've had trying to capture this resonance. It didn't, when I played back on the from the camera mic, it didn't show up. When I used a separate mic, it didn't show up. So now I'm using a separate recorder with a Bayer M88, and I think it does show up. So here we go. You can hear the cone ringing, the frame ringing as well, which is fine. I've got them on isolated on pads. So this is a higher one, obviously. The reason I bought the creams is because I did find with these classic lead 80s that there's an EQ section on this monster. There's the usual passive middle treble bass, and then there's 2.3, 1250, 485, 235, 100 hertz EQ equalization, which is quite useful, using I think it's called inductors, is it? It's quite expensive to do. And I found that, again, the settings generally with this would be 10 on the bass, 10 on the middle, and the treble rolled off a bit. And then I'd be boosting the low end, and sometimes I'd boost the low end quite a bit, and it seems that it wouldn't really, it seems to be a little bit bass shy in some ways. When boosting the low end, it wouldn't really have it, it would kind of boost the upper bass. And I was reading the specs on the classic 80s, and you look at the graph on the Celestion website, and they've got what they call a tight bass, which you might say means a little bit lack of bass. Not surprisingly, classic lead they're called, from back in the day as well, when you wouldn't be expecting a lot of heavy bass from your lead. So I realised after a while that it was probably a consequence of the speaker choice. And remember that the speaker choice was partly or mainly because I couldn't find speakers that could handle the wattage. So I just went with the ones I thought Celestions are good. I'll go with those. They are very articulate and very nice in the mid-range. I do like that. But I want a bit more warmth sometimes, and they don't, I suspect they just don't do it. So reading about the creams when they came out is that they do a bit more of that. And they're 90 watts instead of, these are 80, but they're 90, so they actually match the amp perfectly. I know these things aren't rocket exact sciences, but so that's the idea then. So that's why I've got them. So, but I thought before I put them in and fit them, I might send a bit of this video to Celestion and just check that it's okay. That's normal for there to be such a difference between the two. One more time. I'll let you know the upshot. Once I've sorted that out and decided to fit them, obviously I don't want to fit them and scratch things if one of them has to go back or whatever. And before I remove these, I'll do some sound clips as best I can so you can hear the difference between the classic lead 80 and the creams. I'm afraid I'm not going to go to the trouble of putting the old Fenders back in. So sorry about that. It would be nice, wouldn't it? But no, life's too short. So these are already in there, so I can do some sound clips of these that are already in there, and then when I replace these, which is my intention, I'll obviously keep the same settings and do some sound clips with the creams. So hopefully that'll be useful to some of you. Adios.